Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Tonight, we are here for Canon Conversations entitled Play on Purpose. Welcome again. I am Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles. I teach theology and ethics on the Richmond campus of Union Presbyterian Seminary. And I have the great pleasure of directing the Katie Geneva Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership. For those of you who have been joining us for the past academic year, we've been doing a series entitled Canon Conversations. As you know, the Katie Geneva Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership at Union Presbyterian Seminary recognizes the significance of centering Black women's scholarship as viable sources and resources for theological education. Canon Conversations is our webinar series that was launched by the center in efforts to think all things womanist wisdom in order to support and encourage new titles, writers, and womanist ideas. Tonight, I am uber excited to have on our platform none other than the Reverend Dr. Lakisha Lockhart. She is a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a former Zumba instructor, a womanist, and the coolest auntie around. Dr. Lockhart believes in the power of play, movement, aesthetics, and creative arts in life and theology, using the body as a locus for theological reflection. She is a consultant, the immediate past executive secretary for the Religious Education Association, and in her professorial role as assistant professor of Christian education at Union Presbyterian Seminary. She is not only a teacher, but a facilitator, a rope jumper, a game player, an advocate, and catalyst for critical consciousness and engagement in educating in faith and actually living out that faith through various spiritual and artistic practices for liberation. This Southern lady hails from Columbus, Georgia, by way of Waynesville, Missouri. She received her BA in Philosophy and Religion from Claflin University, her MDiv with a concentration in Pastoral Care and Counseling from Wesley Theological Seminary, her MA in Ethics and Society from Vanderbilt University, and a PhD in Theology and Education from Boston College. The reason we are here tonight is because Dr. Lockhart, I think y'all can see the book, is the author of Doing Theological Double Dutch, a Womanist Pedagogy of Play, recently published with Erdmans, and she is the co-editor of the books Theopoetics in Color, Embodied Approaches in Theological Discourse, and Nobody's Perfect, Redefining Sin and Mistakes in Adolescent Christian Education. Welcome, Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you. It was like a mouthful. That was a lot. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to first tell folks who are joining us tonight, if you are here, let us know. Drop a note and tell us that you're here and where you're joining with us from. We'd love to know who's with us tonight as we talk to Dr. Lockhart and celebrate the publication of this amazing book. I'm so excited that it is here. It is in the world. I have my copy. I hope you have yours too. So let's just jump in. I mean, we're here and we're super excited. So, Dr. Lockhart, how did you come to write this book? Just tell us about your journey.
Oh, goodness. I feel like this book has always been inside of my bones. Since I was a little girl, it's been inside of me, like just busting to come out and not knowing when or how. But you know, kind of just in college, finally finding people that made sense, reading Ntozake Shange, reading Toni Morrison, saying, oh, these are my people. The fact that I understand God through play and movement and embodiment is not, there's not something wrong with me. Like I just haven't been reading the right people. And so kind of from there, I just kind of took that as a good space to, okay, I'm on the right trajectory. I have the passion, I have gifts, and amazing support people that were just in my life saying, hey, if this is the way you find God, guess what? Someone else might too. And you need to just keep going, and just having amazing people. And so I started writing this. That's part of my dissertation, is kind of like the first, if you write a dissertation, like that's just the first, it's done. And thank the Lord that it is. Don't go read it. Don't go look it up, please. But just being able to have that as the foundation, and then teaching in the world, right? And being able to actually engage and like use these practices in my classrooms was just amazing. And so that's when like the book started taking form, right? So that's when it's like, oh, it can't just be a book. It has to be practical. It has to be this. It needs to follow the tenets. It needs to move this way. It needs to feel this way. And so much of it came from just inside of my bones, what came out, amazing people that supported me, and like being able to teach it and refine it. And so that it's this beautiful, amazing book that you see now. Of course, shout out to all the editors and folks at Urbans that, made amazing things happen along the way. But it was just something that was living in me that finally made its way into the world. And I'm just grateful and thankful for it. And I see so many people. I see Virginia, Chesapeake. Oh my gosh. Hey, y'all. Good to see y'all.
Yeah, I mean, folks are blowing us up. Welcome, Mark Davis from Richmond, Virginia. Shireen Sanderson from Chesapeake saying, I love Dr. Lockhart. We do too. Becky Coleman from Minneapolis, Minnesota, the traditional homelands of the Dakota people. Welcome, Donna from Portsmouth, Virginia. We both have had the privilege of teaching Donna, so welcome. And Cassandra, welcome from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Y'all keep telling us that you're here. Welcome tonight. Yes, the book is on Erdman's. It's on Amazon. We'll drop links in the chat for y'all so you can purchase the book. Mark Davis asks, are the books on Amazon? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So, okay. When I saw, first off, the title of the book, I got all in my feels, because doing Theological Double Dutch, I mean, that is just, every Black girl knows about Double Dutch. To do it theologically just makes me jump for joy. And then when I saw literal Double Dutch on the cover, and this beautiful, fantastic artwork that brings that childhood play sensibility right to the front cover, I'm like, yes, this is everything. So tell us about what influenced the cover art and the title of the book.
So I'll probably say I had the title first, right? Because so much of my book, it's kind of talking about like the Double Dutch is not only the game, but it's also the metaphor of what it's like for Black women in the academy, having to jump these ropes all the time, right? So it's not always a good metaphor, right? It's this, we having to jump all of these ropes, but then maybe we all need to be jumping these ropes together. And if we have to do the work, everyone else should have to do the work too. So Double Dutch was always there, because that's how I've always felt. Like I loved the Double Dutch. I knew it would be that childhood nostalgia, right? I knew it would bring that piece of just Black girl reality of being out there on the tops, just turning those ropes. And then also just what it feels like to have to do that in the academy, in a space one space that gives life and one space that can sometimes take it away. And so I knew it had to be that. And I needed something that could hold the weight of both of those, that tension of the beauty of it, but also kind of the hauntingness of also having to do that, or the hardness of it. And so before, when I just had the name, before this thing was even written, I had a really good friend of mine, Patrick Reyes, and he was like, he has this artwork of Double Dutch. Because when I was just brainstorming, he was like, you should go look at that. It's really, really amazing. And I think I went and I like saved it on my computer, but I was like, okay, maybe I'll go back and look at it. And like, once that was written, I went back to that art and I looked at it and I was like, that's it. Literally, you see it behind me, but it's Omari Booker. He's an amazing artist out of Nashville, and it's oil on canvas, but actually the red jump rope is razor wire, actual red razor wire, because it's part of his redlining series. And so basically he's talking about how the redlining, how it's affected communities, all the things that are happening. And so it's like that you see the childhood nostalgia, but then also the dangerousness of this red rope and the blood and just the razor wire and all that it means. And I felt like that double meaning held so much of the meaning of my book also. And so it was just this beautiful God moment that brought me back to this. Like, again, I had saved it maybe 2 years when it was just in infancy, right, in my head. And then, the Spirit was like, go back to this. And I literally, the moment I pulled it up, And I reached out to Omari and I was like, Omari, can I please use your artwork? And he was just like, yes. And so that's how it happened. It was really just a God move, because I don't think there was another piece that could have captured the tension of the double Dutch that I'm talking about in this book, except for this. So I'm just, every time I look at this, I'm just in love with this cover and the art and the book. It's just, oh, I couldn't have asked for anything more for this.
Yeah, I think, what I love about the book is that you continue the theme of double Dutch with the childhood play all throughout the book. Like I'm looking at the titles of the chapters, like Two Truths and a Lie. Who hasn't played Two Truths and a Lie? A Rope History, Mother May I, The Rope Jumpers and Turners, Weaving, Spinning the Fires, 20 Questions. Are we done doing double Dutch yet? So ways that this thing carries and it's fluid throughout, these kind of play moments that you lean into, so many aspects of this this is just like Black girl childhood essence, like all the feels are there as I turn the pages. So I just want to say you accomplished what you set out to do.
Yes, that's the hope.
Welcome, Vanetta. She says she's from Detroit, Michigan. I was out in Detroit this past weekend. So welcome, Vanetta. We have questions starting already. As a new reader, Dr. Lockhart, which book would you suggest I start with?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I would say depending on what season you're in life, if you're into youth ministry, I would say Nobody's Perfect is a really good one to start with. I co-edited, you can't see it right now, but it's Nobody's Perfect, Redefining Sin and Mistakes in Adolescent Christian Education. It's several other authors. I'm not the only one. I helped edit it, so we compiled it together, but I do have a chapter in there kind of especially around Black and brown youth. But so if you're Christian education, this is probably the place you want to start. If you're into theopoetics, other ways of learning, sorry, I don't have that book behind me at the moment. But the book on theopoetics is great. Again, I co-edited. It's an amazing space. It's by all authors of color, intentionally, and basically talking about this is another way that we can think about embodied being, right? Embodied approaches to theology. But if you're just like, hey, I want to know more about how you feel about play, how you feel about aesthetics, like what it would be like to be in your classroom, this one. This is literally what it would be like to be in my classroom. I give examples that I have actually done in the classroom in that book. It's very practical. It's very hands-on. So if you want to know me, I would say go to that one. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. I also have some other articles out there around youth and bodies and different books. And I think one just came out in the Presbyterian Outlook around like joy and complexity. So there are other places I'm at. So feel free to, just bounce around.
That is the joy that we get to celebrate in this moment, that not only is there one book floating around the interwebs, but there are 3 books that Dr. Lockhart has published. And tonight we're centering doing Theological Double Dutch because it is her first academic monograph, all by her, and gives us a window into a distinct contribution that Dr. Lockhart brings to the womanist theological tradition. Welcome, Deborah Daniels from Parker, Colorado. Y'all are in here. Yes. So, I think Mark is prompting some of these questions here. Who is the intended audience for this book, for doing Theological Double Dutch?
Thank you. I would say probably more than anything, it's like the academy, right? So for me, it's talking about how as a Black woman, I've had to navigate these ropes in the academy. And so my hope is that as educators, we can do better by our students. But because I'm also a womanist, it's also practical and it's also able to be implemented. So the way I write it is, yes, I give the history, but I give practical examples in every chapter of the book. There's 4 parts based on the four womanist tenets. And so I map it out, and there are play practices at the end. And so while I lean probably to those in the academy, to those that are teaching, to remind us there are other ways we can teach. This is a teaching tool. It's for any educator. I'm the kind of educator that believes every single thing teaches. Everything, whether you're a parent, whether you're an auntie, whether you're whoever you are teaching those, and you don't even realize, from the way you move, the way you walk, what you wear, everything says something and it teaches. So even if you're not necessarily an educator in that traditional sense, you're still educating. So whether this is the church and the congregation, whether this is at your home and you want to play more, I think it extends in so many different ways. But as a religious educator, I'm also speaking to my colleagues and saying, come on, y'all, we can do better, and our students can do better. There's other ways that we can show up in these spaces.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Welcome, Reverend Linda, to the conversation as well tonight. So I don't assume that folks who come on these kinds of webinars know that term womanist. So I just want you to help folks to unpack what is womanism, and then we'll talk more about how this book is particularly a contribution to the womanist theological tradition.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I feel like a lot of people would say, different entry points to womanism.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like for most people, they've at least heard of feminism if they haven't heard of womanism. And so I like to start there and say, okay, so feminism, we know that just realizing women and women's voice is important. It matters, especially because the patriarchy and things just happening in the world. So essentially, woman has said, hey, feminism, you're great, you're wonderful. And also, you're not thinking a whole lot about intersectionality. You're not thinking a whole lot about Black and brown bodies. You're not thinking a whole lot about these other ways that we are marginalized and oppressed in various ways. That's a very unique experience, right? Whether it's womanist, mujerista, indigenous scholar, like all of these other groups that were just not a part of feminists, right? It tended to be mostly middle class, right women, right? And so there was just so many groups that were not as at the forefront and not seen and kind of just marginalized in different ways. And so womanism just kind of says, hey, guess what? Yes, we're Black women, but we have intersectional realities. We know about oppression. We know about gender. We know about race. We know about all of these other things that is part of how we have to live our lives and how we have to move in the world. And it matters. Our epistemology, the way we come to know in the world matters. Our ontology, our very being matters, and how we do this, our oral traditions, all of this is important. And we have something to say and something to offer that we think the world could learn from, right? And so I think, you have the, Dolores Williams, Katie Geneva Cannon, who the center is named after. You have Jacqueline Grant, who really kind of started that. Pre that, you have Alice Walker, right? That's where it came from, right? In her book, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens. So we've taken those tenets, and from there, kind of womanist theology formed with those 3 foremothers. And then people have just kind of built on it since, right? And so it's and really just giving breath to Black women's experience, our lived realities, our intersectional realities, whether how we might identify as queer or not, just all, literally you can search womanist and like all of these ways that we move in the world come up in such a beautiful way. And I think I'd love to say that and one of Alice Walker says womanist is to feminists as purple is to lavender. And it's not saying that they don't coexist. It's saying that we do coexist. We're not trying to say, it's saying that sometimes it's just a different shade, right? We just get a little deeper in another area. And so I'd love to just make sure we say that. And just realizing, even though it comes from a particular experience, what we have to say and what we offer is universal for everyone to be able to hold on to and to understand. So that would probably be my short, condensed idea of womanism, even though there's so much. And you can actually probably go on the Katie Geneva Cannon website and find out a whole lot more in depth than I just gave you.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful entry point for folks who are just coming to these conversations. In terms of the womanist theological tradition, and you talked about one of the things that Katie Cannon said when folks were saying, well, I don't see this in womanism. She's like, where's your brick? What will you contribute, right? What will you help to build in this house, right? And I think that's a significant part, because it says not only do we all have a space to claim or a piece to contribute, but that there is this house is malleable. What we're constructing has the ability to make room. It's really enough room for all of us, right? Yeah. So I absolutely love that. So let's talk about how the book contributes to the larger womanist tradition.
So I think it's such a building. In my book, I'm citing Alice Walker, I'm citing Katie Cannon, I'm citing Stacey Floyd Thomas, I'm citing Ebony Marshall Turman. I'm citing so many of these amazing womanists, right? Because without their scholarship, right, I wouldn't be able to write about play, right? Because for so long it was this less, I want to say lesser known, but like getting out there more, right? Understanding womanist traditions, understanding womanist theology. And I feel like for me, I consider it an honor to write this book, because it's only because those that like literally came and kicked and knocked down doors, and sometimes it knocked them back, right? That I'm able to even like write this book in this way, right? Folks that, Katie Cannon, even just talking about pedagogy as a Black woman, right? Realizing that it matters how we teach, how we can show up in liberative ways. And for me, it's saying the way that I have experienced that has been through play. And even though so much of kind of the beginning pieces were people devaluing it, saying that, oh, play isn't serious, it's not this. And I'm just like, actually, no, the most transformative and liberative experiences that I have not have only have I experiences that, but that my students have experienced, that I've had in workshops, has been through play. Not only that, but it's accessible. Again, it's just this womanist practice of accessibility, of bringing in all bodies, right? Like our bodies are seen and known in different ways. And for me, play brings that in. And so for me, I feel like it is just adding to this piece of womanism. I think some might call it fourth wave. I'm not sure if I'm fully ready to name it as that, but it's definitely entering that space where it's only because of the first waves of that hard work that we're able to get to this place of bringing out this, I can have what I think someone's like, I can have my soft era. I can play, I can rest, because I also work hard and we also are deserving of that, right? I'm very much thinking of the Trista Hershey manifesto of rest is resistance, and like how we can use these different methods because of those who came before us and use these other ones. Now we can say, hey, we can also play too. Like that's also a way that brings me back to my body and to the divine and to myself in beautiful ways when the world will try to tell me otherwise. So that's definitely one of my biggest contributions. And we can use it in the classroom, believe it or not, to make more liberative and transformative experiences inside the learning environment, which to me is just, yes.
I see Jazzy Johnson, who's a third-year religion PhD student. She says she's taking a little break from her womanist methodologies comps in order to listen in. So welcome, Jazzy. And she says, thank you, Dr. Lockhart, for your labor of love, 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 love. So when folks think about Alice Walker, and you already mentioned her name from In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, and the way that I often tell that she was prompted by her publisher to clarify what she meant by In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, womanist prose, that ultimately spawned the formation of this kind of definition or poetic framing of the term womanist. And in that first part of the definition, folks often say, this notion of a womanist is responsible, in charge, serious. You acting grown up, being grown up, interchangeable with another folk expression, you trying to be grown, right? Is there some tension with play? And how do we reconcile the tension that we might see in the definition with with your understanding of womanist play?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think there's a tension. So for me, when I read this, I just read this as, yes, being responsible, in charge, and knowing who you are, right? Stacey Floyd Thomas would say the radical subjectivity, like knowing deeply who I am, how I identify, having agency to move in the world. So being serious about how I want to move. So if I'm serious about how I want to move, if my move is playful, then that's okay, right? But it's being serious about how I'm showing up in the world is really how so much of that is what I see. And in the book, I call this section embracing self. I call this tenet embracing self, like what it means to embrace all of who you are, whether that is playful, whether that's not playful. I also know play is not everybody's jam, and that's okay, right? But it's, who are you? How are you enacting agency in your world? And yeah, that is serious. And also, you can do it playfully, even though you are so serious, right? I say a lot about, like, I like to play on purpose. Like, yeah, it's on purpose. We're going to do it. It is serious to play, and it is also playful. I feel like play holds the space of tension. We can both have happiness and lament. We can have joy and rage. All of that can coexist in playful, curated environments and spaces. It can hold that, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other, which is why I think it's so beautiful about play, but also like just the womanist aspect is that it allows you to be whomever you are, right? You don't have to put on, you don't have to be what someone else tells you to be. You don't have to be the stereotypes. You can embrace who you are, exactly how you are. And play just allows you to bring all of that to the forefront, whatever that might mean and look like for you.
Yeah. What is womanist play for folks who are coming and saying, I don't really know what she means by womanist play. How do you define it?
So I define play itself as an aesthetic embodied experience that is part of what it means to be human. Just think back to when you were a kid and you were playing games. I don't know about you, but I learned so much about who I was. That's how I made meaning of the world. It's how I came to know about who I was, and who other people were. If I'm playing, Red Rover, depending on how I play, am I going to go under? Am I going to go over? Am I going to go around? What if someone else goes under instead of going around? Will I consider them a cheater? How will I feel about them? Literally, I'm making all these life decisions are happening in these games, right? You're learning so much about us. And so I define play as that kind of just embodied aesthetic experience about what it is to be human, how we make meaning of the world in so many different ways. And then when we add the womanist aspects to it, it's thinking about how we make meaning in the world, how we come to know from the lens and perspective of Black women, right? So we know that the 4 tenets, right, are radical subjectivity. I name it as embracing self. And these tenets are Stacey Floyd Thomas, who Alice Walker, Katie Cannon, Stacey Floyd Thomas, right? So that's where a lot of it's coming from with its ethical tenets. And traditional communalism, I name it as engaging culture and community. Redemptive self-love, embodying God's love, critical engagement, and kindling the world. So it's literally looking kind of through the lens of the Black women of these 4 tenets and creating play practices around these things. What are some of the practices that help us embrace ourselves? The practices that help us engage more fully into culture and community, practices that help us embody God's love, right? You play that helps us enkindle the world and just light it on fire, right? So that's what it would be. It would be how we make meaning of things from the lens and perspective of Black women.
Donna asks, what was the most challenging aspect about this body of work? And at what age do you think it is appropriate to introduce this theology?
Good question. Thank you, Donna. So the most challenging aspect of this body of work was probably just my own internal stuff. It was really just so much of play can be seen as frivolous, right? It can be seen as, in the theological world, it can be seen as that, right? And not only that, but especially as a Black woman, like I would never want womanism or Black women to be seen as a joke in any shape, form, or fashion. And so that was really important to me, that this is, right, we talked about being serious. Like I take my play seriously, like how we play, how we move. It means a lot to me and how we show up. And so my biggest thing was I wanted to be sure I was doing right by Black women and how we understand play, right? Which is why it was important to me, the title, the art, the games, like how it came across. And I so much so that even in the introduction, I talk a lot about cultural appropriation, which is really important when we're thinking about this, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm just saying, oh, we can always be Black women. Nope, that's also not what I'm saying. No. I'm just saying we have a lot to learn from women. And so for me, that was probably the biggest piece, is making sure that I was doing that justice, making sure that I was representing this community that I've called home, with women that have spoken so much into my life, that I was doing right by that. But that also I was sharing this piece about play that people might still see as frivolous, but say, no, there's so much more here. So that was kind of a really some of the difficulty of really putting this together and wanting to be really sensitive and honest about where I was. I think the second part was, what age do I think it's appropriate to introduce this theology? As soon as humanly possible. That's until this is a lifespan kind of thing. And so often as adults, so I've done youth ministry, so I have 2 little kiddos, 5 and 2. So literally I'm playing with them, they're playing with me, they're teaching me every single day about play, which is wonderful and beautiful. And I feel like so much as adults, we leave so much of that behind because we feel like we have to be serious. We have to show up in this way. We have to, and yet we are made better cognitively, physiologically, mentally, when we actually make space and time to play. There's studies out there that actually tell us we are better when we make space and time for that. So this is really a lifespan thing. We can start from young to actually talk about how important play is. That way we don't lose it when we get older. Lifespan. It's never too soon. I mean, you might have to use some smaller words, right? Like maybe you're not going to say theology when you hit this 5. Maybe you're just like, God might want us to play, right? Maybe read some of the creation story. Literally creativity, all the creation. Hello, clownfish. Are you not I cackle when I read the Bible. I literally just thinking about creation itself. How is that not playful? There are so many of these instances in the Bible. So what would it mean to just, as you're talking about these instances, oh my goodness, God was being playful. Jesus telling parables. We had talking donkeys. I mean, my goodness, this is just chock full of play. I mean, only because April 15th is coming up, literally Jesus telling the the tax collectors to go get the money out of the mouth of a fish. Y'all, is that not playful? If I could tell the IRS, go get your money out of the mouth of a fish, I would, but I can't. I'd be in jail somewhere. So, I mean, it's chock full of play. So you can enter these conversations at any point and just really bring that spirit there. It's just, we just need to remember that it's there and that it's okay to laugh and to bring this to the Bible, to whatever we're bringing. So any age, all ages.
I really love this kind of ability to see folks having the opportunity to play at whatever ages, right? And that's I think part of the growing up piece is also suppressing some of the beautiful aspects of our childhood, of our innocence, or of our coming to know that we missed out of because we've had to, especially for Black girls, right?
Yeah.
Had to encounter a hostile world that forced us to grow up too soon, sometimes, and too fast. You had to know some things quicker than other counterparts. And so this reclamation of play and laughter and joy and taking play seriously, right? It is, I think, not only a call to divine creativity, to accept that, but also a call to accept more of ourselves. If you talk about and you name play as an embodied aspect of our being, of what it means to be human.
Yeah, I mean, even just so often we're doing it, we're just not giving it the intention when we're cooking, when we are, playing dominoes and spades. I don't know about y'all, I take spades very seriously. So,
Me too.
Okay.
Partners.
Right, don't jump on the table if you're not ready. But I mean, just all of these things that we're already doing, right? Even just from accessorizing. These are these small moments of play, how you're choosing to show up, how you want the world to see. Like, all of these are very playful and creative ways of showing up in the world and ways of pushing back so often to a world that tells us how we're supposed to show up, how I'm supposed to look as a professor. I shouldn't have a hoodie that says dope soul, but my soul is dope and that's not my fault, right? I mean, right, but all of these ways that we show up and how we can use this also as just a way to resist, to push back, and just to say, no, this is how I'm going to show up. And even if you're not okay with it, I am. And so is God. And that's kind of all that matters. So yeah, because they try to, in general, society, just so much is taken away, especially from Black girls, from just being objectified and sexualized at such an early age. We have to grow up so much quicker. And it's like, just, we can still be playful. We can still honor that part of us that deeply needs that. And I think someone mentioned that it's healing. Exactly. It's healing these young these grown Black women who couldn't always be Black girls, right? It's so healing and necessary. Absolutely.
Yeah, Lakisha Bradshaw Easter says play and laughter is not only okay, it's healing. I think that's beautiful. Absolutely. I'm still inviting your questions if you have them as we continue our conversation. You taught a womanist pedagogy of play. So let's talk a little bit about pedagogy. What is womanist pedagogy? What do you mean by that? How do we understand what is womanist pedagogy?
Thanks. So, okay, so we already talked about the womanist piece. So let's talk about the pedagogy piece. So it's essentially how we teach, right? The many ways that we teach, our teaching style. I will say, I won't get into it now, but there's like a whole other level. It's like andragogy, which is like a teaching for adults, which is like a little separate. So again, that's the educator brain in me. But we're talking pedagogy, which is really just how we teach, the ways in which we teach, right? So whether we're going to do transformative learning, whether we are doing, directed learning, self-directed, right? Pedagogy is often where we give, educational tools, people are learning, how we're choosing to do that. Are we using certain methodologies? Do we use technology? How are these things showing up? How teaching tools, teaching practices, how we choose to teach, right? And so when I think about womanist pedagogy, I think about teaching, right? Teaching practices, teaching tools that are unapologetically intersectional in the way that they are, right? Which means teaching in a way that is liberative, in a way that curates space and environments for other ways of knowing and being. So what this looks like is, on my syllabus, that means I have authors of various diverse backgrounds, right? It doesn't mean we're only reading as one of my colleagues, as a former friend would say, the dead old white men, right? It means that we're reading a plethora of folks, but it also means that we're valuing other ways of knowing. So we're listening to podcasts, we're watching films, we are using our own lives. We're doing interviews. We're actually talking to young people. God forbid we actually talk to people, right? But we're using all of the things because we're intersectional beings. And so it's basically saying how we take all of these tools and use them as tools for teaching and learning, and how we can do that across space and time, whether we're in a classroom, whether we're outside the classroom. I literally remember we did a graffiti tour for one of my classes because we were learning about culture, and we were talking about what graffiti has to say and what we can learn from it. We can learn from so many things. And I think womanism takes seriously the liberative aspects of all and the multiple ways that we can learn in the world.
Yeah, one of my pedagogical goals is to expand sources of knowledge production. And I think that so much, especially academic spaces of learning, suggests only if it's in a book. And yes, books are important. We write books, they're great. But there are so many spaces of learning or ways that we can learn not only what's in those books, but also how to experience other aspects of the world that can also teach us a number of lessons. So I think that kind of multi-dialogical engagement is important to have a number of conversation partners, a number of dialogue partners that can expand our thinking and really give us a larger, broader view of not only ourselves, but also the world, for sure.
Yeah. And then when we start doing that, it leads to like how it shows up in the classroom, right? So
Mhm.
I don't just give written assignments. We have play assignments. We have all kinds of other assignments that actually make meaning in the world for you, that are actually practical, that you can use, that you can implement immediately, right? Because again, if we're moving into that, then that's part of how it's going to show up, right? With what we're putting out there, the assignments that we're getting, or even how we're grading. I choose to ungrade, right? Which for me is just this beautiful way of decentering these norms, right? That are what education needs to be, and really pushing for like decolonizing these practices and what that means and looks like. Because again, we're pushing for liberation with womanist pedagogy. And so how the various ways and modalities in which we can continue to push to decolonize the spaces and make them more liberative, I think are important. So all of those little things matter. What we sign, how we assign it, what we grade, how it shows up, where we're meeting, how we meet, just all of the things, all of it matters.
Yeah. Donna Grave says being in your class is fantastic. In fact, I think you're teaching it this academic year coming up, a womanist play course. But this work is not only work that you talk about, but that you've implemented obviously in courses, but specifically designated towards womanist play is a particular class as well.
It is. It was such, oh my God, and it's such a fun class to teach. My first iteration of teaching it, right? And that's kind of when I tweaked the book. Because I was like, okay, I'm teaching it specifically the way I'm going to write it. And I tweaked it and it was good. So this is like the one where I'm teaching where I feel really good about. I'm literally almost teaching the book, right? And so it feels really good. Like just teaching that class, it's so beautiful. I was able to kind of do an intense version of this at Emory this past January. Like I was the Sankofa scholar, so I got to teach this class for like an intensive week, and it was so packed and so much, but it was so just filling and just bringing us back to our bodies, bringing us back to this beautiful space of being just embodied people, but knowing that there's another way to do things, that it doesn't just have to be this one way. Which is beautiful to be. It was yeah. Every time it just gives me chills just thinking about like this possibility of remembering who we are and who we're called to be, that there can be another way that is more liberative for us. Yeah.
And I know that what just launched a couple weeks ago is that you're doing an exciting partnership with Flagler College called The Playground.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because
Oh
that
my
may be a
goodness.
resource for folks who are joining tonight.
Yes, please. If you're in ministry, it's meant for, folks that are just in ministry, because we want to like help train you and give you tools so that you can go and use this in ministry. So essentially there's, it's called the Playground, where we use ancient Christian practices and for that we modernize for today. And there's 3 different tracks. So there's one that's going to be about holy rest and Sabbath with Nate Stuckey, who's at, I believe at Princeton. I'm doing the one that's around like womanist play. And then we have, I believe it's Nate Thompson, who is doing, oh my goodness, the order of life, like the monastic, I think, the Franciscan order of life. And like they actually do a trip to Italy because each of these involves like a pilgrimage. So you'll come for like a couple of days where you take the class with us. And then you have a bunch of stuff that you also take online. Like it's like a course, but you have to do things. And then you have a pilgrimage. And then you leave with these great tools and resources to then go and put this in your place, wherever you are. And so it's just this really great experience of us being able to pour into you. And I think it actually, I'm not sure because I know it's with a nice endowment. And so I think we actually pay for some pieces. Don't get me wrong. You go look on the website. I'm not sure exactly how much where, but I do know we offer some. And I just think it would be an amazing experience. And so it's only, I think, one or two in-person gatherings. The rest is virtual. So it should be a little bit more accessible, but it's for any ministry person, whoever might want to take this, clergy, whomever you are, it would be an amazing experience. Again, you can take any of the 3 tracks. So even if play isn't your jam, if you want to do Sabbath or you want to learn more about the Franciscan way, please feel free. It's an amazing experience.
Awesome. Our folks, Sam, who helps with our tech, has just dropped in the chat info on the Playground. So you can go there to Flagler College, find out more about the program and the track specifically that Dr. Lockhart is leading, and find way for you to join and to get more information about how this work shows up, not just in the classroom, but also in practice. Cassandra Thomas asked, would you share a congregation that has used your play on purpose and how they responded, and a group of Black clergy seminary women and how they have responded?
I feel like Donna might be able to respond better. Donna, feel free to write your thoughts in there if you want. Let's see. If I'm talking about congregational, so I've actually done this kind of like in big workshops with various communities that didn't identify as Black women, right? That were much more not as colorful. And they found it really helpful as a way to start conversations, as a way to not be so in their head, but to really step out of things. Because part of what I do with Play on Purpose is I actually walk people through play experiences. Like literally in the moment, we're playing. Before we talk about theory, we're playing. Like literally the whole point is to get out of yourself. And so some of it is just, you just need a reminder that it's okay most of the time. And so we do these experiences. And so once you remember what it was like to play, it's hard to kind of go back to when you didn't. And so most of these post people I've gotten emails back from talk about how they still use these play practices. I get emails all the time. Hey, which materials did I need? Or, hey, can I substitute this for this? And I'm like, absolutely. Some people are like, yeah, we do it with our youth, but we've also done it with our adults, and they're having more conversation. They're able to open up more. They're able to have more real conversations about God because it doesn't feel like it's so personal, because we make it about the play and we get really deep into the conversation about the play. So it doesn't seem so personal. We focus on the object, but it's still personal, right? But it just really helps, as Jerome Berryman and D.W. Winnicott would say, get to the true self of who you are and how you show up. And so it really has done that for those congregations. I would probably say for Black women, I would think about probably some of my students that I would have. And I remember specifically one of my Black students who's also a pastor. She, after the class, she made me, well, we were on a Zoom and she waited for everyone else to get off the Zoom. And she was just like in tears. And she said, I forgot that I needed this. I forgot that my body was important. She's like, I forgot that play is of God too, right? She said, I forgot that it doesn't diminish me, but it makes me better, right? So it was just this conversation of, I think it's a special nod to Black women, to just this reminder of what maybe we felt like we had to hide so the world wouldn't take advantage of, right? Or see as a weakness in us, is that it's also a place of our strength, a place where we get rejuvenated, a place where we are healed, as someone said before, and that we are made whole. And so that was powerful. And that, I think, is probably one of the biggest differences I've noticed in the communities and how they take it back, and the personalness of remembering the body and the importance of play.
Yeah. I just want to do a special plug for those of you who are joining us in Charleston, South Carolina, May 1st through the 3rd. We'll be having a conference for the Katie Geneva Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership on joy. This joy we have, but Dr. Lockhart is leading a whole session on the Womanist Playground, which will put these modes of play in practice. So you'll be able to also participate in that if you're joining us. And I hope you will join us in Charleston.
We'll have a good time.
Yes. What was one of the most significant discoveries that you had while writing this book?
I'm trying to think. Probably that I wasn't alone. Just for the longest time, I thought, this, even though I read Ntozake Shange and I'm like, okay, these are my people, but no one else seems to understand it in this way. And part of me realized, okay, that was a gift, right? Like that was part of, the work that my soul must have, Katie Geneva Cannon, right? Like that was part of that. But that there are so many people who also see play in this way. They just haven't been using it in that way, or they just didn't see it as valid, or they did, right? And so just as I've been doing this and even just getting feedback from about the book and about that, it's just like, I've been doing this, but no one's talking about it. Or I was doing this and no one talked about how important it is. And finally you're giving words to this. And so that felt really significant, that it wasn't just me, and it's just so many people are feeling this. It's just now we're finding words, right? Like I'm finally just putting it into words on a page. And probably the other significant discovery was just how transformative it makes classrooms and like just workshop experiences. Like it just, I mean, sometimes I'm even just taken aback by how powerful it can be in any given space just by playing and by adding this intentionality, like the things that can happen and how people are reacted and what they take back and how it affects change and how it just has this ripple effect. It just feels, I thought about it, but I'd never thought about it. Right. Like I thought, I had hoped, but never. Right. And so for me, like just to discover that through this work, through the writing of it, through now getting the feedback from it, it's just, yeah, I cry a lot about it. So just, I mean, in the most beautiful way, because I want to honor also where I'm at. And it's just really beautiful to know that people are having just these experiences. And most importantly, just with their bodies. That's probably the other big thing, is just people remembering how important their bodies are. If nothing else, yes, that's enough. If you don't remember anything else, your body is important and deserves all the things. So yeah, it's so many significant things.
Yeah. I love this kind of reclamation of the body, and to not only see our bodies, but to value them and to give them the space, the rest, the play that they too need, right? Is important. Who are your writing muses?
Oh my goodness. So more personally, my kiddos. I would try out things on them, but I mean, even just like something would happen, I'd be like, oh, that's the thing, right? But also, I mean, I consider them muses, but also just those are the faces I'm looking in every day to be accountable to. Like, I want them to, be like, yeah, this is why you're doing this. This is why, I'm getting up at this hour, or this is why I can't go to that game, or this is why I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my muses. Just so many personal, amazing Black women in my life, like from my mom and my sisters who sacrificed so much, but also just any phone call, any conversation, it's just constant wisdom and sharing and cackling and just being able to grow up around so much love and play is, I know what brought that forth in me. Right. Like, and so just, they're kind of my constant muses, because was there from since I was little, and they created that environment. They gave me that space to do that. And I probably just in a more, Ntozake Shange, as I said earlier, Toni Morrison, specifically, right? Those are also some writing muses. And I would also say a Menti Sujai, who was my professor at Claflin University, CU, who introduced me to Toni Morrison and into Sake Shange. Just definitely people that I take with me when I'm writing, that help me stay true to my voice and who I am and how I show up.
Yeah, I love these HBCU beginnings as well. Shout out to historically Black colleges and universities and the way that they are continuing to support the intellectual development and formation of so many scholars, not only Black scholars, but scholars across the world. I'm just so grateful for what's happening at these institutions still today.
Amen.
Folks, if you are with us tonight, keep dropping your questions. We have a little bit more time. I see a question that Mark Davis asked specifically in relation to Black male clergy and Black male theologians. He says, how do they respond to the challenges of womanism? I probably have a question about what does he mean by challenges, but curious about how do Black men engage womanism in your context?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I would say hopefully not challenges either, but I would say support, uplift, and amplify. I feel like, especially in various Black church contexts, patriarchy is still very real, right? There are many Black women who still cannot preach, even though they are called. There are lots of things that are still happening. And so for me, I think the biggest thing that Black men can do is to support, uplift, and amplify. Maybe that also means, hey, if you're using a womanist text, use the womanist text and quote that person. Use more womanist texts. Say, hey, let's bring this Black woman in to preach. Hey, let's bring so-and-so in. Hey, let's amplify these voices. Hey, let's support my sis who's going to speak. Let me go support it. Like, I just show up. Be present. Don't gaslight. Don't speak for. Don't speak over. Yes, protect Black clergymen, please. Trust. Listen. Just any one of those things I feel like would be wonderful and amazing. And I would also say just lean in, right? Like when they're doing things, go with it. Go with it. And don't steal their stuff. Don't steal their shine. Don't take their things. Just cite our sources, folks. That happens more often than you might think. Just kind.
It's simple. Believe Black women, trust Black women, support Black women, cite Black women.
Right. Somebody write the chat so we can hold that. Put it on some t-shirts.
Cite Black women. Because folks are quoting Black women, and we know y'all quoting us. But give the citation, drop the site. Absolutely.
Even if you don't know the page number, just still drop it. Just that in the book somewhere. I'll take it. I mean, if you got the page number, great. But if not, just getting it out there.
Vanetta Clark-Toole says, yes, let us return to our womanist bodies, to the joy of childhood, the joys of childhood, because we deserve joy.
We are so deserving of all the things as adults. Yes. Oh.
Well, what is your key takeaway or your enduring hope for this book?
My goodness. Key takeaway, enduring hope for the book. That we'll always remember that probably two things. So one, that we'll always remember that when we've been created by a creative creator to create, whether that's play, whether that's art, whether that's whatever your gifting is, there is space for it. As I think we said at the beginning, there is space enough for us all. We can all be here together and eat. And that it is enough and beautiful as it is. So go create. Whenever you feel unsure or lost, create whatever is in you, right? Don't doubt it. Just create whatever that looks like and means for you. I hope we get that from the book. I mean, yeah, I'm talking about play, but I talk also just about the creating of it. And I would guess the other second thing that I would hope is that we always remember that it can be done another way. Right? That it doesn't have to look the way it's always looked, that we can engage and educate the whole person, including our body, in transformative and liberative ways that bring life and don't diminish it, that we can do things another way.
I mean, talk about quotes. We've been created by a creative creator that
To
gives us
create.
to create. Oh my goodness. That is the quote of the night. Yes, yes. Dr. Lockhart said it. Please don't worry. But my God, today, I mean, yes, that is just, it just says, it captures it all for sure. That's, um, we serve such a creative God. Why are we so boring?
Why?
Why
There's
are
no
we
reason.
so imaginative, right? What's happening?
Literally, ain't nothing
Mhm.
but space and opportunity, as they would say, right?
Exactly. So I think we've got our marching tools to go out and do something, to create something, to make something happen, and go another way. Lakeisha Bradshaw Easter says, looking for my metal jacks soon as we
Yes.
this amazing conversation.
Come on, get the jump ropes, the hula hoops, get them all out. I know y'all got
Get
them.
it all. Get it all.
Get your coloring books. Just get it all out and just see how to cook a meal. Put the phone down for a second. Just cook intentionally. Just put some extra stuff in there. Just yes.
Even if it's starting with just 10 minutes a day, figuring out something you're gonna do for yourself.
Even
Yeah.
if it's 5 minutes, whatever it is, just
Yeah.
the thing, whatever that thing is.
Reclaim the time.
Right? Maybe you just want to take a little extra time to pick out the earrings you want for that day. Go ahead. You deserve, right? You please.
Dr. Lockhart, you are such a gift, and we're so thankful for your work in this forum, but the work that you continue to do all across, not only at Union Presbyterian Seminary, but you're just a fabulous educator, teacher, thinker, leader, consultant, all the things. If she can come to your church, she can come to your school, she can come to wherever you need her to be. And do some fabulous things for you. But thank you for the gifts and the offering that you've given us with doing Theological Double Dutch.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for just all this engagement, all the things that you all are saying. I want you to know I am taking it. I am rubbing it in. I invite you to do the same wherever you need it most. No, but thank you. And, Dr. Melanie, I love having you as a colleague. So I feel so blessed that we get to play together. So thanks for having me. And I'm excited.
Love it, love it, love it. You are so deserving. Listen, folks, we're at the end of tonight, but I just want to make sure I reiterate for you. Thank you for joining these Canon Conversations. We'll be back next month in May with talking about Is It a Sermon, a new book that's out. So we'll be able to talk with the author on that particular book. So we're excited, Danielle McCrae, to talk with her next month. For those of you who have been following the center, you should already know, but if you don't know, I'm happy to tell you that we are heading to Charleston, South Carolina, May 1st through the 3rd. Registration is on and popping. Please book your room before April 10th, but you can meet us in Charleston. And when I tell you, we have so many exciting things planned, so we want you to make your way, absolutely. And also this week, April 4th, we are finishing up our applications for our inaugural cohort fellowship for the Katie Geneva Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership for Black women in ministry in rural and small towns. You have the ability to submit a proposal to participate in a cohort, a year-long cohort for the rest of 2025, as well as to receive $2,000, a micro grant towards some of the work that you're doing in your ministry context. So also in that link tree, you should be able to see information about the conference, but also where you might apply, and applications are due this Friday, April 4th, to apply for our fellowship on Black church, rural, and small towns ministry initiative. Thank y'all for joining tonight, and we're going to close with a short video inviting you to the conference. Calling all call womanists, scholars, artists, activists, and allies to the floor. I'm Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles, the director of the Katie Geneva Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership at Union Presbyterian Seminary. Let me tell you, our world is in a mess, and this is no time for retreat. It's time for resistance. In commemoration of the 10th anniversary of the Charleston 9 massacre and in celebration of the International African American Museum, we invite you to Charleston, South Carolina, May 1st through May 3rd, 2025. Our theme this year, this joy that we have, acts of resistance in the face of manifold evil. Trust me, you want to be there.